I'm in the big leagues, told her don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh, send it through quickly. I'm making his dog, like I'm in the big leagues. Told him that I gotta go, dog.
Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of CED Connects. I'm your co-host, Stephen J. We are here with part 2 of JAZMIN's episode. Let's get into the show.
Yeah, I think that as women, we need to understand when it's time to leave the room, to leave the party, to leave the relationship, to leave the business, to leave the job. You have to know. If you are not being respected and honored and appreciated for what it is that you do, then you're not in the right room. I think that for me, it's important to be in rooms with men that appreciate who I am, that give me the space, that respect me, right? Like you guys do here. And I've been in rooms where that's not the case, and I understand that that's not the room for me, and I am okay with walking away from any situation. I would say just learn when to walk away. You don't need to be in the spaces. I'm a firm believer that's what's meant for you shouldn't be difficult. What's meant for you will flow. What's meant for you will lift you up and will create a better energy and surrounding around you. And there are men who ultimately do that for women, and there are men that don't. And you need to be discerning and understand which are good men to be around and which are not good men to be around, and exit those situations quickly.
How long did it take for you to like recognize that like self empowerment to do that?
I think that it's a learning experience every time you get better. You continue attracting the same type of people, right? Therapy, I think.
Everyone should go to therapy.
Everyone should go to therapy. Yes, therapy, of course, helps me deal with a lot of the situations where I feel disempowered. I feel just like it's a feeling that you get in your gut where it's just uncomfortable, and I need to listen to my intuition and understand that space is not for me. But therapy is really what helped me.
What would you like to see from men to hold more men accountable to make women feel safe in rooms?
I think that we all need to focus on mental health. I think that as men, sometimes, no, not sometimes, I think often, if there's someone that's disrespectful in a room, men will look away. It's not my problem. And it is your problem, because if we have so much assault against women, and the woman needs to learn how to dress not provocative, or you're being flirtatious, or whatever that negative stigma is around women's persona, men hold other men accountable. And if you're not a man who is comfortable with standing up to other men in the room and calling them out, then unfortunately, I can't tell you guys how to handle each other. I'm not a man.
Right.
I that's between you guys. But I will say that I do notice the men that stand up and the men that stay quiet. And,
Speaks volumes.
I take notes, and I say, okay, that's how you are. And I'm going to treat you accordingly. I think that also it's important to understand that it's okay to meet somebody at their energy level, even if it's toxic. Like, I'm not going to be nice to you if you're mean to me. I'm going to meet you and be just as mean to you. Yeah. But I'm not going to stay there. I'm just going to treat you accordingly.
In the time that you're in front of that.
Matching energy for the time.
I'm going to match your energy.
That's
absolutely.
Okay
Yeah.
So then what about, like, one, we all know men could be assholes. We all know also in this cannabis space, men think they have more power than they actually do, or, buyers put female sales reps in an uncomfortable situation. What do you feel, or what is some advice you would give to women on how to handle an unwelcomed approach beyond business?
I think that, I've been in situations where men don't know who I am. They didn't even Google, like, you didn't even look up my LinkedIn. You didn't even Google. You didn't even go into Instagram. And I sit in these meetings and they come in to school me. And I'll use a situation where please. It's older gentlemen, right? I think the younger gentlemen sometimes are a little intimidated, and for me it's easier to check someone that's younger than me than someone that's older than me. And this older gentleman has been through the trenches in the cannabis industry, lost money, has been a partner in a lot of things, and nothing has come to fruition, had to liquidate his investments and like sell lights off, sell equipment out, so like, just to paint a perspective of where this man is at. Very negative, very disgusted with the industry. And I have open conversations with friends all the time, and how are you doing, Jazz? What are you up to? And I start explaining, hey, I'm working on this project and I'm pulling up financials for this project. I'm looking at financial projections. I vetted these projects. And this person jumps in and immediately begins to tell me, you're doing it wrong. It is not the industry to go in. You don't understand how people are deceiving each other and how people are losing money. You shouldn't even waste your time in that. And mind you, this person does not know who I am. So I'm like, this motherfucker. I have to take a deep breath, and I kindly say, I understand you've been through the trenches. I know that you've had a sour taste in this industry, and I can empathize with that. However, I do business differently. I have a proven track record. I do my due diligence before I commit to anything. That's just basic business understanding.
Sure.
Maybe you fail to understand basic business, and that's something that unfortunately I can't teach you how to do. And I would question if your investments are just as bad across the board outside of cannabis, because you didn't do your business correctly. And he just sits there and I'm not the one. I'm not the one. I will shut you up.
I was like, damn, man, I didn't even have that money. I was like,
Wrong.
Yeah. Let me rethink my strategy.
Let me change these stocks real quick.
Give me a second.
Yeah, you have to like calmly, kindly, and
someone,
yeah, and you know they'll get aggressive too. I've had people get aggressive to me, and listen, fuck around and find out. I'm from South Central. I will
test your assumption.
Yes.
And take note of the results.
Yes, please. Come on. And I've had these conversations with women as well. I've had horrible experiences with women in the industry. Women that dislike me have called clients of mine in the past and spoke bad about me and have tried to discredit my work. And you know what? And this is something that I grew up knowing is no one can take down your hustle. What's work that's done is work that's done, and it's there. And one thing that I know about me is that my work precedes me. Like if my work precedes me. So if there's somebody talking bad about me out there, like, girl, you look bad talking about me, because the stats
don't math.
The
math ain't mathing.
The math ain't mathing. So it's a difficult conversation. I think that you need to understand how to put people in their place, not be afraid to put people in their place. I've had people that sometimes I do feel, will a client drop me because I said X, Y, and Z? And I'm okay if you drop me with that. If what I said was offensive to you, then we need to check each other's ethic and understand that we shouldn't be working with each other. And listen, let's terminate this contract right now. I think that a lot of people are afraid to take those kind of losses or make those kind of decisions. I'm not. I want to make sure that the people that are at my table are the people that I align with and that I am going to grow with, and I'm going to continue doing good business with. And if that's not you, I need you to get out right now.
That makes a lot of sense, man. That's crazy that you've gone through so much, but yet you still have so much to like give and offer.
Oh, absolutely. I think that when you start weeding out the people that don't need to be in your circle, you start attracting the people that do.
Yeah.
So learn to say no to what's not meant for you, so you can say yes and make room for what is meant for you. Because there's good people out there. I mean, two people sitting here with me. Y'all are awesome. Yeah.
Talk to us about the we kind of briefly touched on conferences, right? And major conferences. You have the Cannabis Salud in Mexico.
Yes.
Give us a little information on that. What does that look like? How did that like? What was the first event like? And what are some goals that you want projected for future events?
Yes. So Cannabis Salud is an international medical and science conference that was founded by myself and Lorena Beltran, who's my business partner, and she lives in Mexico. The first Cannabis Salud took place in 2017 in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. And we did it in partnership with the COFEPRIS. The COFEPRIS is the national FDA of Mexico.
Okay.
So this prior to 2017, Lorena and I were consulting. I was consulting Concentrate, and Lorena was consulting Charlotte's Web. We were working in Mexico, and we were looking to see what kind of legislation we can draw up and see if we can ruffle some feathers. And we were able to get our foot in the door with the COFEPRIS. And of course, coming from the Colorado market, we understood that the biggest challenge is going to be educating our elected officials and our regulators. So we started consulting at a very high level with the executive director of the COFEPRIS, and we began drafting the first medical bill for legalization.
Before all of this, like, do you have experience in like writing? Like, was that something that like you enjoyed doing growing up? Like
Writing?
Writing, yeah. Because it sounds like drafting up, like all these words of like drafting and putting together. Like it sounds like it's a large essay.
It is. It like you start off with one paragraph and then you're done with like 300 pages. And I do want to clarify that I didn't do this work by myself. Like there's attorneys, there's other consultants, there's experts in each industry, but the coordination part. Growing up, so I grew up at age 5. My parents opened up a grocery store. It was called JAZMIN's Market. So that was like my first.
Wait, that was your store?
Yeah.
Not the same thing.
Yeah, it was my store. And I mean, my after schools were at the store, at the grocery store.
Ringing people up,
stocking shelves. I mean, I had to learn math and apply it at an early age. My dad didn't speak English, so I was like the translator at the store. The weekends, I had to be at the store. That's where my parents would take care of me and my siblings. And I did that till I was about 12 years old. No, maybe 13, 14 years old. The business was sold. And then my dad went into trucking, and we opened up a trucking business. And then my mom went into real estate, and we opened up a real estate business. Now, my dad's English is very broken. From a very early age, and I think this is where a lot of first generation Latinos can identify with me. Like I was the accountant, I was the translator, I was the one calling the doctor's appointments because that was just what I had to do for my family. And I think that's where the business management came in. That's what I had to do.
Yeah.
So when I'm 14, 15 years old, I'm like handling all of my dad's paperwork for the LA port. Like all his, I had to read all those documents. I had to make sure his timesheets were on point, his insurance was right. And then on my mom's side, my mom speaks English broken, but she speaks English very well, can communicate. She becomes a real estate agent, and I become her assistant because I know how to use a computer. And she's like, I need you to
Draft up some
draft
documents.
off all these things. She would write it out for me. I would type it up. And I remember being 16 years old and my mom having us do door knocking and passing out flyers for canvassing. Yeah, as real estate like little assistants. And also cold. I was the oldest, so she's like, "Here, you can answer a phone, you can make phone calls." So I started cold calling at 16.
Jeez.
And it was like these big books that I had to go through. Did all that till I was 18. I got my real estate license as soon as I turned 18. And now I'm not only her assistant, but like an associate to her. And at that age, which is really impressive. And I look back and think, wow, this, I am impressed by myself.
Yeah.
So at 18, I meet someone within Bank of America who's doing community benefit agreements. And she's the coordinator of all these programs. And she's like, hey, what if we do a first-time home buyer seminar? See how it goes. She's like, we'll use Bank of America's resources for first-time home buyers on the lender side, and you guys can come in and do the real estate part. And I'm like, okay. And my mom can handle these presentations, right? So I was pretty confident, but I brokered that deal between my mom's company and B of A. And we had a whole series across like Bellflower, Bell, Cudahy, Maywood, like all these
little large branches for Bank of America.
Yeah.
Too.
In like the southeast LA County area.
Right.
And we did that for about 3 years. And that's where all of our business came from. And I was like, listen, if that means I don't have to cold call, I could do this.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, for sure.
So I ran these workshops every Saturday for 3 years.
Oh, shit. It's a lot of Saturdays.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been hustling.
Yeah.
Nice. That's wild.
The other thing I did when I was in high school, I was in high school and I was taking community college classes. I went to high school at Fairfax, and on the weekends and after school sometimes I would take community college at LACC. So by the time I graduated high school, I had like an associate's already.
Which is very important.
Basically lined
That's
up.
what I'm making my daughter do.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I know the LACC had a lot of like classes for like high school students going into like.
I did it through this program called Upward Bound, which is still around. And I mean, honestly, like being able to put in these positions growing up has shaped who I am. My homeschool was Jefferson High School, which is in the hood. And if you're familiar with Jeff, it's not a good school at all. LAUSD has failed a lot of students, and it's the school to prison pipeline. And my parents were not okay with me having to go through that type of scenario, and requested LAUSD to move me to a different program. And I was one of those kids that was bused from Jefferson into Fairfax. And I know like other kids went to like Chatsworth, North Hollywood High, and other schools in the Valley. I was fortunate enough to go to Fairfax, and it really did open my eyes to what's outside the hood.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's real. Just because same for me. Like I grew up in like the Hawthorne, Lenox area, and growing up, I never left that area until like as an adult. But before that, it was like a bubble for me. So I completely understand that. So with all that experience, that helped with all of the legislation stuff. Sounds like.
I think so. I think that going into legislation, I didn't come from policy. I didn't know what was the process. I didn't know about political connections. I didn't know about city departments. I didn't know about how a motion or an ordinance or a bill gets through. I mean, I remember vaguely from high school,
Yeah,
but
like that. I'm just a bill.
yeah,
Kind of thing, right? Yeah.
yeah, everyone
The
remembers
Schoolhouse Rock.
the who. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that's been around since the 80s, and it's still the only resource available in regards to that education channel. So we haven't updated these kind of resources, is what
Yeah.
I'm saying. And yeah, I didn't know any of this, but what I did know was that I was a consumer, I understood business, and I'm a constituent and I'm a stakeholder. So I'm not coming in when I come to these policy meetings, I come in as a stakeholder. And it's powerful because I'm hands-on. I know what's happening. And again, it rivals a little bit what organizations are doing, because I think organizations sometimes get lost in playing the political game or being that mediator between the stakeholder and the politician. And in my opinion, is you're a constituent. You can go directly to the policymakers.
Yeah.
Why not? That's their job. They literally got elected to listen to you.
Yeah. I've always thought that was crazy because I used to have a nonprofit organization, and early on I'd have to, like, to try to get funding. We'd go to like neighborhood council meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd go to a neighborhood council meeting, and for those that don't know, it's like a city council meeting for the county of LA, but because there's LA so big, every city, like every hub has
Yeah,
little
I
meetings.
can break that down.
Yeah.
So the city of LA has 15 districts. Each district has between 7 to 12 neighborhood councils. And the neighborhood councils were given the authority to host weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly meetings where the local neighborhood can come in and see what the bigger agenda items for the city are, have a direct contact to a city official to understand what your concerns and comments are in that area, and to voice new concerns that are happening around the city. And you can actually go to lacity.org and understand where your neighborhood council is at. I know a huge conversation right now is homelessness.
Yeah.
So make sure that you stay active, but
Yeah.
that's how you get started.
Yeah. So I would go to these meetings, and the one thing that like drew my attention was, one, there wasn't a lot of people in these meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and the people that were in the meetings were the senior citizens of the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so that always just like, I was like, you hear a lot of people on social media, like, they have an opinion, obviously, like people have something to say,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not in the right room saying what they need to say, or what should be said
Yeah.
within those meetings. And so I always thought that was jarring for me.
Yes. I think that these cyber conversations or social media conversations that we have, and I will call people out on that, is you are going off on social media, you're allowed minutes in front of city council. Go run your mouth.
Yeah.
Why are you running your mouth on Twitter or on Instagram?
If you want it for the
Yeah.
gram, if you want it for the gram, they record it so you can get that
Yeah.
recording and then post it on your page.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think I challenge people to be involved in politics. I think that going in, being forced to be politically involved because of cannabis led me to be involved in a whole lot of other issues. I had the privilege to work in cannabis, and part of my job was to go sit in city council meetings and listen to these cannabis items and to comment on these items. However, I'm sitting there for 5 hours, 4 hours, sometimes it could go as long as 8 hours to sit in city council chambers, and you get to listen to all of the agenda. So now I'm listening to homelessness cleanups. I'm listening to new project developments that are happening in the city of Los Angeles. I'm listening to committee meetings on corruption of past city council members. I'm sitting in on why the housing department isn't processing housing applications fast enough, and their process takes 6 months to process one application. And to me, it became my duty as a constituent to voice these frustrations, because even though I'm in cannabis, I live in the community. I support my community. And when I walk out my house door, I have expectations of how my community needs to look. And if I'm not actively in city council asking for those and holding them accountable, then what am I doing?
Man, if Gil was here, he'd be like eating this up right now. I don't know where he's at, but this
Who's
is
Gil?
Gil was
Oh.
the American Cholo.
Oh,
Guy
nice.
who's that's his wheelhouse. That's his jam. I'm sure he'd love to have you to speak on
Yeah.
that too, like because that's his jam right there, right, Chris? Yeah.
You have to. It's you have to. And I think that, Danny, you see this a lot in the industry, is people always have something to say. They always want to be running their mouth. And that's another like deflect that I use is don't come tell me. You can go to city council and voice your opinion. You can write an email just like you can write a tweet.
Yeah.
You can write an email. Like passive aggressive.
Right. Yeah. No. You're right. You're right. But bringing this back to Mexico.
Oh yeah. What's happening in Mexico?
But it was a great. Like I don't want to take away from the conversation because it was a good one.
Yeah.
But the conferences that you create in Mexico, like, is that something that you're gonna bring to the States too?
We've talked about it. Cannabis Salud is an international conference, so we have a lot of international attendees. And Mexico is a lot more affordable when it comes to travel, to assistance. Like you mentioned, these conferences can add up in pricing, right? Yeah. So I would love to host one here in Los Angeles. I would love to host one in LA. But the pricing to do something like that in Los Angeles at the quality that I'm able to do it, it's not as feasible as it is in Mexico. And for now, I think that because Mexico doesn't have a lot of legislation and regulation, it makes it an attractive market to be able to travel for this conference and connect with international people. So my competition isn't as high or as prominent as it would be here, where there's an open market. And maybe the LA market and the United States market in general isn't really interested in the medical and science part of it, because of federal prohibition, we don't require those kind of clinical trials and certifications at a federal level. You don't need to have any of these certifications to have a medical cannabis product out in the market right now. The only difference between adult use and medical use are taxes. That's it.
So then, but what's the policy like then in Mexico with cannabis that allows you to be able to go in and do the conference?
No, there's no policy that allows us to do it. It's the numbers that allow us to do it. The cost to operate, the travel expenses of our attendees.
Yeah.
And we've hosted it in Guadalajara, in Mexico City, and in Cancun. So to be able to have something in Cancun where you're coming to an all-inclusive resort, 3 days of full day conferences, there's booths, there's a full agenda of panels and presentations, and you get to really network with amazing people. That's attractive.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to go to Cancun.
I want to go to Cancun too.
Yeah. And the Mexico City version, it's in, we hosted, this year it's going to be August 22nd and 23rd in Hospital Siglo XXI. Century 21 Hospital is what it translates to.
Okay.
And it's it's a top hospital in Mexico. It has great conference rooms, and we are attracting that medical market. So for us to host something like that and attract a Canadian medical market or European medical market into Mexico City is a lot easier for us to do that versus having to pitch a company in Los Angeles where your participation is probably going to double or triple in cost for coming to LA.
Yeah.
Would I want to do one here? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the goal.
Yeah. I mean, it gets it makes sense to do it in another country, and it's another excuse to
Yeah.
travel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I mean, the last time you were out, you were gone for what? You were out there for like over a month, 2, 3 months? 3 months.
So usually what I'll do is I spend 3 months out of my year in Mexico. And I try to do it consecutively, so I'm not like having to travel and like carry so much luggage and then come back and forth. If I do need to come to LA for a meeting or two, like I can come do that.
Mm-hmm.
But during conference time where I have to be boots on the ground and be accessible to the team and support Lorena. Lorena's the CEO of Cannabis Salud, so she takes care of a lot of the grunt work. And but I try to be there pre-production and post-production, and then try to take a little time off
Right.
after all the hustle.
Nice. So then you're planning to be out there in like July.
July, August. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, July, August, and then be back September.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's and the whole agenda is already planned out by now. Like you guys plan at least a year in advance.
The conference agenda, it's not finished actually. We have two stages. One's going to be medical science, the other one's going to be business. And there's still room for speakers, there's room for brands. Our tickets haven't gone on sale yet. They won't go on sale till April.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's still time for us to slip in.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's still a couple of people that we're waiting for confirmation as far as like their schedule, because they're flying in from another country and all that. So we leave it pretty open.
Yeah.
And then we do have paid opportunities as well for brands that want to feature a CEO, and those are always good because they help us pay production costs. So we leave those spaces open, but they're in production, you just allocate those spaces to that specific sponsorship. It doesn't mean that it's taken. It just means that it's allocated for that purpose.
Nice. You have any other shout outs or any other events that you want to bring to light?
Events?
Or any projects, anything that you got?
Projects. Well, we haven't talked about what I'm doing in the city of LA.
Let's do that. Yeah, that's right, because you have something with Sun Valley, no?
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
So in November, I got a contract with the city of Los Angeles to do cannabis oversight. I became the emerging markets consulting for District 6. And that basically means that at a micro level, I'm auditing the cannabis program. And I'm identifying a couple of things. One is currently the city of Los Angeles is out of compliance with state and federal regulations in annual licensing. So through Prop 64, municipalities were given the opportunity to either commercialize or prohibit cannabis. 64% of municipalities to this day still prohibit cannabis, which is, we're still in a prohibition state if you think about it. The city of Los Angeles is a unique player because it has precedence as far as pre-ICO licenses. What that means is that prior to 2018, when adult use market came into effect, prior to 2018, there was Prop D licenses that were operational, and that set of licenses are called pre-ICO licenses in the city of Los Angeles. So that meant that the city of Los Angeles was going to transition existing businesses into the regulated market. And the way they did that was figured out what's the easiest way we can keep these licenses open by checking a couple of, doing minimal due diligence to get these operations where they need to be. And that due diligence, because it was minimal, came with a lot of baggage that was going to be done at a later time.
That later time is now.
It's now, yes. And the state of California said, okay, but you have deadlines. You have to meet these deadlines. And unlike other cities, so when you go to like the city of Linwood, the city of Long Beach, Santa Ana, for example, they all started their licensing program at an annual level. So that meant that if you were going to submit a license, you had to go through your whole application process before you can get operational, right?
Right.
So a lot of these cities are in compliance. They still have problems, but they're in
Sure.
compliance. The city of LA is not. So right now we have 182 licenses that need to go through this annual application process, and the city of LA and the Department of Cannabis Regulation hasn't done the due diligence necessary to streamline this process. And Councilwoman Imelda Padilla, who has been an advocate for cannabis before she became elected, been very active in the industry and creating pathways to be able to mitigate some of the problems with policy.
Yeah.
She saw the opportunity. She's known the work that I've done in the industry for over the years. She's been a witness of the work that I've done, and contracted my company to run this program.
Nice.
And I mean, I'm just so grateful to be able to be put in rooms that do appreciate the work that I've done and appreciate the talents that I bring to the table and are ready to use them. And we've been able to do amazing work in these last 3 months, even though we're just in 3 months, and we're getting ready to do a lot more. So one of the things that's important here to understand is that this is a citywide issue. So the identifiers at a micro level are found in all 15 districts, not just her districts. Unfortunately, a lot of city council members are not educated on the history of legalization in the city of LA, of the problems that are within the industry within the city of Los Angeles, and what are those requirements that we need to look at.
Right.
So Councilwoman has really put me in a position to lead that conversation with the solutions that we've already identified could help the city of Los Angeles and operators get to a compliant state.
So are you only looking for those pre-ICO companies or licenses to help out, or are you also looking for those that may have opened up after legalization?
After. So
After.
it's a complete overview.
Yeah.
Pre-ICO is like the first thing we have to figure out because we have deadlines there. We already did some work around social equity. So social equity was going to be subject to those deadlines. However, SB 51 passed at the state level, and Governor Newsom signed that into law in October. And that SB 51 granted an extension to social equity retailers. And that bill.
So what does that mean?
That just means that you don't have to go through the annual licensing process just yet. You have to go through it, but we're giving you an extension.
Yeah.
And the reason these businesses need an extension is because at the city level, the city of Los Angeles issued 300 social equity retailers outside of the 182 pre-ICOs that are already up and running. From those 300, we only have 82 that are open. So part of my job is also finding out, why are we not open?
Where are the other 120?
200.
Or 220?
Yeah, 200. Where are all those licenses at? They could be stuck in predatory agreements,
Which I know of a few.
landlord disputes. They could be stuck. They could ran out of money.
Because they've been still technically waiting, and that sucks.
Yeah. So that's another part of the work that I'm doing, is understanding where a lot of these licenses are. However, I'm confident because I've been through so many applications already. I've been through every single application in the supply chain multiple times in the state of California, multiple municipalities. I've also understand that our pre-ICOs have different needs than our social equity applications. However, I also understand how much they have alike, and we need to remove those differences so that we can treat them as the same license, because ultimately they're the same license.
Right.
And the goal here is to get these licenses operational.
So is there, like, I know that for the license to become active, like let's say the retail shop, there's so many guidelines to be able to open a shop.
Mm-hmm.
Is there enough like availability in terms of real estate to accommodate the missing licenses that haven't been opened yet?
So
Is that a problem? Is that an issue?
it is.
'Cause of the
Real estate
zoning?
is always an issue. The zoning. So to put a little bit in perspective to our listeners, cannabis licensing is subject to zoning requirements. That means that there's a list of requirements that your property has to meet before you can even apply for the license. That includes zoning around manufacturing and industrial and retail type of zones. There's school restrictions, there are daycare restrictions, there's church restrictions, and so forth and so on.
Right.
So that created a predatory demand of real estate for cannabis properties, because now there's maps available that show you every single property that is subject to cannabis licensing. And what happens is that these landlords see the opportunity to take advantage and make more money. And I think that it's important to note that these issues are not special to cannabis. These issues are across the board, and predatory landlords are the reason the city of Los Angeles has a high homeless rate. Right? So in perspective, it's not a cannabis issue. However, how do we fix this? How do we make it better? So one of the ideas that we are looking at is creating a pilot program with either city-owned properties at market rates. So if we can create a pilot program that sets the standard of what rent should look like, what an operating agreement needs to look like at a city level, and how to successfully work with government to run your operations, that's the goal right now, figuring out that pilot program. However, that means that the city, the community, the industry needs to stand on business and back it up. And what do I mean by that? I mean that as an industry, if we are paying surplus pricing for real estate, we need to stop. And we need to tell each other what we're paying. We need to tell each other who's being predatory. We need to tell each other who is doing bad business, and refuse as a community to do business with people that do bad business.
Yeah.
Because there's so much government can do. Unfortunately, the city of LA or any government cannot impose mandates on real estate because there's separation of assets there. Right? You as a landlord can choose to inflate your pricing. And again, not a cannabis issue, because now we're figuring out how do we create standards for livable housing.
So it sounds like if you fix the cannabis problem, you fix the world.
Probably. I think so.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That's crazy to even just put it in that way. Like,
into perspective. And mind you, these are things that I learn because I get to sit in and listen to the whole city council agenda. I'm there for cannabis, but I get to listen to all the problems. Street vending is a huge issue in LA too, and the county and the state. When you look at the discrepancies in the street vendor program, they're the same discrepancies as the cannabis program. City departments don't communicate within each other in a timely manner, which creates barriers of entry for our operators. City or Department of Finance isn't streamlined to accept payments and to notify that payment was paid to the other departments, so that LAPD isn't shutting you down or the health department isn't showing up. And now these health departments, LAPD, fire, and planning department that has to come out and do their inspections, there isn't streamlined processes within those departments that allow us to get these things done in a timely manner. And you're sitting on a project for over a year, paying expenses without being able to operate. And that's just not how you do good business in general.
So you're essentially sitting in these meetings internally screaming like,
Do you guys have Google Meet? Do you know what Google Drive is? Yes. And I'm not the only one.
Right.
I'm
No,
not the only
sure.
one in there screaming internally and thinking, why are we not using Google Drive? Or do you know what a automation system or Asana or
Right. Just any
resources and tools?
communication, CRM program type of situation.
Yes. And this is where the community comes in. I think budgeting is a huge issue. How is the city spending their money and resources? The thing that I hear a lot or have heard a lot in the past is, well, this is how it works in the city. It's not working. It's not. So let's start there.
Let's figure something else out.
This is how it works. No, it hasn't been working. It's outdated systems. I can compare it to the DMV. Like, everybody used to complain about the DMV being so difficult to like get one procedure or process done. It would take hours, and now there's automation at DMV. I just renewed my driver's license. Took me 15 minutes to in and out.
Yeah, with the little kiosk
All of
systems.
that. Exactly.
There was the Pacoima just ID and like I forgot what else I think it was just IDs and driver's license office.
Mhm.
That was the best office ever, but it got shut down.
They shut down.
They shut it down, but it was the best. I used to love it. Like, you'd walk in 5 minutes, walk right out, done with your program.
And we need those kind of services and streamlined processes.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of work. So I definitely invite people to be active in policy, be active in how it shapes out as an industry, as a consumer. Right now, the consumer is paying taxes on taxes. So the other thing that we've identified is that the state, federal, or California's tax board, and the Department of Finance for the city of Los Angeles have contradicting policies. Those contradicting policies are making a double taxation, are imposing a double taxation on the product, and that double taxation comes from the consumer. So when you go in and you pay
Right.
$5, $10, $15, $150 for your
Yeah. So example with this one was $250. This one was $6. When I once I paid everything, it came out to $12. So $6 and $8
doubled.
$8.50 was the pre-tax. $12 was after tax. So
Yeah.
good $4.
So $4 that goes to taxes. And the industry is bleeding right now because you're forced to overpay on taxes, and there isn't clarification from the city or the state level on how to properly calculate those taxes. And city officials have not been responsive to these pleas from the industry. So
they're like trying to just, I don't want to see it. I don't want to deal with it.
they don't even understand. They're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
If it says A, B, and C, well, that's what it is. They didn't understand that there's a conflict on the mathematical. So one of the things that Councilwoman Imelda Padilla has instructed me to do in my department is to write a motion that'll, one, help the Department of Finance admit that there's a conflict at the state level, and two, create the solution of how we're going to reprimand some of that hardship on our owners and operators. And we're looking at things like tax breaks. Right now, there's a lot of people are shutting down in the industry.
Yeah.
And it has to do a lot of back taxes. So
Yeah.
if you are overdue on your taxes, you are shut down
Yeah.
at a local level. And it's like being an overdraft fee and then getting overdraft fees on top of your
Yeah.
overdraft fees. How are you going to catch up? And And a lot of businesses are there right now. So yes, we have 180 pre-ICOs. We have 82 social equity retailers open, but they're in danger of closing down because of overtaxation. So now we're also looking at ways we can relieve some of that tax stress on these licenses, working within the budgets to see if there's credits we can give, if there's pardons, or finding those internal solutions, because we could be at a point where a lot of these businesses are going to go bankrupt. And that was a harsh reality I had to share with city council, is we have to make sure that we take action now, because we might be left without a regulated industry.
Yeah, you could definitely see how a good amount of them are going to, like you said, shut down. And it feels like it's just going to be a cycle if nothing does get done, because then what would happen is they will shut down. Then one of those licenses that haven't been open will probably take over, right? And or reopen, or or not even open at all.
Those are still, but those are still in the pipeline to open. They shouldn't be replacing.
Got it.
They should just be opening. So we should have 482 licenses right now. So we can look in the future. We want to open up more retail spaces. We want to open up new cultivation licenses.
Will opening up more shops even help at all? Anything?
Prior to legalization, we had over 1,000 Prop D shops in the city of LA. So we are well under what we're projected to be at.
Right.
We're not 20% there. So yeah, that is the goal. The other thing is looking ahead. The Olympics are coming to LA. The World Cup is coming to LA. We're going to have a Super Bowl in LA as well. So we're talking about opening up more retailers, more cultivation licenses, because those have been capped since 2018-19, and event licenses and consumption lounges.
Those two are the biggest ones.
Yeah.
Right?
And LA, cannabis is going to participate in these world events, and we want to make sure it's regulated cannabis that's at the door, that our licensed operators are the ones benefiting from these opportunities. However,
is there any event licenses in LA?
Nope.
There's none.
And no consumption lounges. So we're gonna
the only consumption lounge is what? West Hollywood, Ventura County, Palm Springs.
Yep.
That's the closest
here in Southern California. Mm-hmm.
But and even throughout the state, right? Because
I think Sacramento,
like
the Bay Area has a couple. I want to say Oakland, San Francisco has a.
I know we were at Lemoore. We did an event there at Lemoore, but Lemoore was 3 hours away.
Yeah, we need some closer.
Yeah,
we need some in LA. The West Hollywood consumption lounges. That was a whole nother issue too. The city of West Hollywood issued 11 licenses, and of those 11, only 4 were open. And one of them was the original Cannabis Cafe. It opened in 2020, and in 3 weeks we got the pandemic.
It was open a little bit before that, but yeah.
Maybe a month, 2 months.
Yeah, the pandemic. Yeah, that a lot of people, a lot of people in the industry say it was because of the whole herpes thing, but
no, it
had nothing to do with that. It was the pandemic, and it was the idea of, you're smoking, you're coughing. There was a scare of 6 feet and coughing and all of that. Like, just that idea of it is what.
Yeah, no, I don't attribute to that story at all. I think that it was doing very well, and then the pandemic hit, and you're in your launch phase, getting to market, and you're forced to shut down. Everyone was forced to shut down.
Right.
It hurt the businesses. So the 4 licenses that were going to open were forced to shut down, and you have to pay rent and bills during that time. Right. And I believe that cannabis businesses do not qualify for PPP.
Yeah.
at a federal level because we're federally prohibited.
Right.
So these businesses were hurting. Right now, I think we have about 5 that are open now.
The consumption lounges.
Yeah,
What
5
is
or
it?
6.
They opened up the cafe. They opened up a second restaurant, like the Pleasure Med,
Pleasure Med, the Artistry.
the Woods.
Mm-hmm.
What's the fifth one?
That's it.
So it's 4.
It's 4.
That's crazy. Yeah.
4 out of 11.
Oh, so then what? Dang.
What do we do now? We keep pushing.
Yes.
We keep pushing. I think that there's still a lot of opportunity. I want to encourage people to continue supporting the regulated market. If you're a consumer, shop locally. Go support your local shops.
I went today. I went to Butter,
Mhm.
right, which is in North Hollywood, but I also went to Sunset Herbal. Sunset
Okay.
Herbal, which is right here down the street on Burbank and Lancashire. Things I can't think of the other cross, but the major cross streets is Burbank and Lancashire. So shout out to Sunset Herbal for these here.
Yeah, there's a lot of existing businesses out there, and we got to continue supporting them. Spend our money with intention and go support.
Are there any, again, being back in March, women brands that you want to highlight that people should learn about and support that you know of off top? I was trying to think of something this morning, and I was like, the only one I could, Natasha with
Hey
Culture
Bud.
Cuts, Hey Bud. I was thinking, I know Tiana with Queen Mary.
Yes.
Um,
Chicali, who's a CBD brand.
Oh, that's right.
Chicali. She won't be in dispensaries, but you can find her online as Chicali Products.
I think ChicaliProducts.com. Who else though? What other women product is Luchador still a thing?
So
Because that was a woman owned brand.
yeah. So Luchador, I know Carolina, who's the head scientist. She moved to somewhere in the Midwest, and they were looking to just white label the formulas here because they were relocating. This was at the end of 2023. I don't know where she's at right now, but that's women owned. There's this other brand named Gomis. I haven't met the owner, founder, but it is online. Let me find
I know Tamika with Biko. They're women owned. Shout out to Tamika and Biko. But I can't think of anyone else. Cornerstone and Eagle
dispensaries,
Rock?
yes.
Dispensaries.
There's Josephine and Billy's.
And Billy's. Willow.
Yeah. Gorilla RX.
Gorilla RX.
I think it's
Go
called
shop there.
Paraíso in Santa Ana is also women owned.
Oh yeah. Verde Plus too, right? On Normandy?
Yes. There's a couple.
Shout out to all you women out there in the
Yes.
space. Appreciate you guys. And shout out to you again.
Thank you.
For being
Thank you.
here. Any last shout outs?
Let me think.
Mala, shout out to Mala.
We shouted out
Mala.
her. Listen to Marihuanera, a podcast for podheads. It's wrapping up season 3, but catch up from season 1. Listen to that podcast. It's amazing. Shout out to Lorena, who's killing it over there with Cannabis Salud and other great ventures. Shout out to Councilwoman Imelda Padilla, who just won her re-election on Tuesday.
Nice.
At 76%.
That's a big percentage.
That is
when it comes to politics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a huge percentage. It's probably unheard of for a Latina woman to go into the city of Los Angeles.
Nice.
At that rate. So I'm very, very proud of the work that she's been doing.
We should try to get her in here.
Yeah, she would love to.
We should try to get her. Just get her in with Gil too. Let's do it. I'm gonna talk to Gil.
Yeah.
Got a lot to catch up on there. All
Yes.
right. I want to shout out my 3 girls as always. Dalia, Faith, Rosie. I love you girls. Birthdays are coming up. Man, my March is filled. I got
with birthdays.
with birthdays. Yeah,
All these Pisces.
Yeah,
Shout
my-
out to all the Pisces.
that's right. My oldest, she turned 15 on February 18th. So she just turned 15. My baby, she's turning 2 on March 8th, which is International Women's Day.
Yes.
The middle baby, she's turning 5 on March 16th. And their mama's she's turning on March 24th.
Nice.
So-
Congratulations to all your girls.
Yes, thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, girls. I love you, girls. And shout out to the oldest varsity softball.
Yay.
All right. And with that being said, guys, we'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you.